The 22 Laws of Branding. Before you build a brand, you need to understand how brands grow in people's minds. A brand is not just a logo, color, product, or service. A real brand is the meaning people remember when they see your name. It is the trust you build, the position you own, and the idea people connect with you. That is why branding needs clear principles. Without principles, a business can look good but still feel confusing. It can post content, run ads, and sell products but still fail to build memory, trust, and loyalty. The 22 Laws of Branding help you understand how to build a brand with focus, clarity, consistency, and meaning. Because great brands are not built by accident. They are built intentionally. And in this video we will break down the laws that every founder, marketer, creator, and business owner should understand before building a brand. Laws 0103. Expansion, contraction, and advertising. The first 3 laws explain a very important branding lesson. A brand becomes stronger when its meaning becomes clearer. Many businesses think growth means doing more. More products, more services, more audiences, more content, more offers. But in branding, doing more can sometimes make the brand weaker. The law of expansion says that the wider a brand spreads, the weaker its meaning can become. When a business tries to stand for too many things, customers may not understand what the brand is really about. And when the customer cannot explain your brand clearly, they usually do not remember it clearly. That is why focus matters. The law of contraction says the opposite. The more focused your brand becomes, the stronger it can become in the customer's mind. When people know exactly what you stand for, your brand becomes easier to recognize, easier to trust, and easier to remember. A focused brand does not try to speak to everyone. It chooses a clear position and builds around it. Then comes the law of advertising. Advertising does not fix a weak or confusing brand. Advertising only amplifies what already exists. If your brand is clear, advertising can make it more visible. But if your brand is unclear, advertising only spreads the confusion faster. So before you expand, advertise, or scale, ask yourself, what is the one idea people should connect with our brand? Because strong brands do not grow by becoming everything to everyone. They grow by becoming clear, focused, and memorable. Laws 0406. THE. Word, quality, and category. The next 3 laws explain how a brand becomes easier to understand, easier to trust, and easier to remember. The first one is the law of the word. A strong brand should try to own one clear word or idea in the customer's mind. Not 10 things. Not a long explanation. One simple meaning. For example, when people think of Volvo, they often think of safety. When people think of Mercedes, they often think of prestige. That is the power of owning a word. Your brand becomes easier to remember because people know exactly what idea to connect with you. Then comes the law of quality. Many businesses believe that if they have a high-quality product, the brand will automatically become strong. But quality alone is not enough. What matters is not only actual quality, it is also perceived quality. Customers decide based on what they believe, what they feel, what they see, and what they trust. So your brand must not only deliver quality, it must communicate quality clearly. Your design, message, reviews, experience, packaging, and positioning all shape how people judge your value. Then comes the law of category. If you cannot be first in an existing category, create a new category. Because being first in a clear category is often more powerful than being slightly better in a crowded one. Customers remember leaders. They remember the brand that defines the space. So instead of asking how can we beat everyone, ask what category can we own? Because strong brands do not only compete, they create a position people can understand. So remember, own a word, communicate quality, and build a category where your brand can lead. Laws 0709. THE name, fellowship, and the generic. The next 3 laws explain how customers remember a brand and how the market around the brand can affect its growth. The law of the name says that, in the long run, a brand is little more than a name. At the beginning, people may care about features, price, design, or convenience. But over time, what stays in the customer's mind is the brand name and the meaning attached to it. That is why choosing the right name matters. A strong name should be easy to remember, easy to say, and easy to connect with a clear idea. Because a confusing name makes the brand harder to recognize. Then comes the law of fellowship. This law explains that healthy competition can actually help a category grow. Many businesses fear competitors, but sometimes, when two strong brands compete in the same space, customers start paying more attention to the whole category. Competition creates comparison. Comparison creates interest. And interest can grow the market. So the goal is not always to avoid competition. The goal is to build a brand with a clear position inside that competition. Then comes the law of the generic. Generic names are usually weak, because they do not create a unique memory. If the name sounds too common, too descriptive, or too similar to everyone else, people may forget it quickly. A strong brand name should feel distinct. It should help people recognize you faster, and remember you longer. So remember, choose a name with meaning. Understand how competition can grow attention. And avoid generic names that make your brand disappear in the market. Laws 10 to 12, Sub-brands, The company, and subcategories. The next 3 laws explain how too much brand structure can create confusion. The law of sub-brands says that sub-brands often weaken the main brand instead of strengthening it. Many businesses add names like Light, Pro, Premium, Plus, or different versions under the same brand. At first, this may look like growth. But if every version has a different meaning, the customer may become confused about what the main brand really stands for. A strong brand needs a clear core promise. If sub-brands blur that promise, they reduce the power of the main brand. Then comes the law of the company. This law reminds us that a brand is not the same as a company. Customers usually do not connect with corporate structures. They connect with brands. They remember names, meanings, emotions, and experiences. So the company behind the brand may be important internally, but in the market, the brand name is what matters most. The customer does not ask how your company is organized. They ask what your brand means to them. Then comes the law of subcategories. Too much segmentation can create confusion. When a business divides the brand into too many small categories, customers may struggle to understand the full picture. Sometimes, when entering a very different market, it is better to create a separate brand instead of stretching the original brand too far. Because every brand has limits. And when you push one brand into too many spaces, its meaning becomes weaker. So remember, protect the main brand. Do not confuse the customer with too many names. And when a new market needs a different meaning, build a separate brand instead of damaging the original one. Laws 13 to 15. Siblings, shape and color. The next 3 laws explain how brands can expand visually and strategically without losing clarity. The law of siblings says that if a company wants to create more than one brand, each brand should have its own clear identity. A sibling brand should not be a confusing copy of the main brand. It should have its own name, its own position, its own audience, and its own reason to exist. This is important, because when brands look too similar or sound too similar, customers do not understand why both exist. But when each sibling brand has a clear role, the company can grow without weakening the meaning of each brand. Then comes the law of shape. The shape of your logo, packaging, and visual identity affects how easily people recognize your brand. A strong brand shape should be simple, clear, and easy to identify. If the design is too complicated, people may not remember it quickly. In branding, simplicity usually wins. Because customers do not study your logo, they notice it fast, feel something, and move on. So the visual identity must be easy to recognize at a glance. Then comes the law of color. Color is one of the strongest memory tools in branding. A brand should try to own a color, or color combination, that becomes connected to its identity. But color should not be random. It should support the brand's personality, category, and feeling. Luxury brands may use black, white, gold, or deep tones. Fresh brands may use brighter or softer colors. Tech brands may use clean blues, silvers, or modern gradients. The goal is not just to look nice. The goal is to become recognizable. So remember, give each brand a clear role. Keep the shape simple. And use color as a memory tool, not just decoration. Laws 16 to 18. Borders, consistency and change. The next 3 laws explain how a brand grows, stays recognizable, and changes without losing trust. The law of borders says that strong brands can grow beyond local markets. A brand does not have to stay limited by geography. If the idea is clear, the positioning is strong, and the identity is easy to understand, the brand can travel across countries, cultures, and markets. But global growth does not mean changing the brand every time. It means keeping the core identity strong, while adapting the message to fit the audience. Then comes the law of consistency. Consistency is one of the biggest reasons people remember a brand. When your visuals, tone, message, and experience stay connected over time, people begin to recognize you faster. A brand becomes stronger through repetition. Not random repetition, but meaningful repetition. The same promise, the same feeling, the same identity, the same position. If the brand changes too often, customers may lose the mental connection they had with it. Then comes the law of change. Change is sometimes necessary, but it should be handled carefully. A brand should not change just because the team is bored. It should change when the market changes, when the customer changes, or when the current position is no longer working. Strong brands evolve without destroying their core meaning. So remember, build beyond borders. Stay consistent long enough to be remembered. And only change when change protects the future of the brand. Laws 19 to 20. Mortality and singularity. The next two laws explain something many businesses do not want to accept. Not every brand lasts forever. The law of mortality says that brands are not immortal. A brand can become powerful, respected, and known, but if the market changes and the brand refuses to adapt, it can slowly lose relevance. Sometimes the customer changes. Sometimes technology changes. Sometimes habits change. And sometimes a brand that was once strong no longer fits the future. This does not mean every brand should change constantly. But it does mean every brand should stay aware. A strong brand protects its core meaning, but it also understands when the market is moving. Then comes the law of singularity. This law says that the most important thing for a brand is to own one clear idea in the customer's mind. Not 10 ideas. Not a long list of benefits. One sharp position. Because customers do not remember complicated brands easily. They remember simple meanings. The brand that owns one clear idea becomes easier to recognize, easier to explain, and easier to trust. So remember, a brand must stay relevant. And a brand must stay focused. Because the strongest brands are not the ones trying to mean everything. They are the ones that own one powerful idea clearly. Laws 21 to 22. Resources and meaning. The final two laws remind us that a brand needs both support and purpose. The law of resources says that a brand cannot grow without the right investment behind it. A strong idea is important. A clear position is important. But if nobody sees the brand, remembers it, or experiences it consistently, the brand will struggle to grow. Resources can include money, time, people, content, design, distribution, advertising, partnerships, and customer experience. A brand needs enough support to stay visible and consistent in the market, because even the best brand idea can stay hidden if it does not have the resources to reach people. Then comes the law of meaning. A brand becomes powerful when people attach a clear meaning to it. The customer should understand what the brand represents, why it matters, and why it is different. If a brand has no clear meaning, it becomes just another name in the market. But when the meaning is strong, people remember it faster, they trust it more, and they can explain it to others. So remember, a brand needs resources to grow, and it needs meaning to last. Because visibility brings people in, but meaning makes them remember you. Final takeaway. Here is the final takeaway. The 22 laws of branding all point to one main idea. A strong brand is built in the customer's mind, not only in your logo, not only in your product, and not only in your content. A brand becomes strong when people clearly understand what you stand for, why you matter, and what makes you different. That is why focus is important. A brand that tries to mean everything usually ends up meaning nothing. That is why consistency is important. People need to see the same identity, message, and promise again and again before they remember you. That is why positioning is important. If customers cannot explain your brand clearly, your brand does not own a strong place in their mind yet. And that is why meaning is important. People do not connect with random names. They connect with brands that represent something clear. So before you build, redesign, advertise, or expand your brand, ask yourself, what word do we want to own? What category do we want to lead? What meaning do we want people to remember? And are we consistent enough to build trust over time? Because branding is not about looking good once. It is about becoming remembered, trusted, and chosen repeatedly. If you want more animated business lessons like this, subscribe to SIVRA. And tell us in the comments which branding law you think businesses ignore the most. Your challenge might become the next SIVRA video.